everyone. It's Lena Banks, certified financial planning professional and small business coach based here in Austin, Texas. Welcome back to your financial therapy for the week. Thanks as always for tuning in. Before we get started, I need to ask you if you've been enjoying the show, please like, subscribe, give us a review wherever you're listening or watching. I would be so happy with that. Today's episode is all about how to really make change. And I want to just briefly cover 5 areas that I have seen all the time that people struggle with, but that drastically affect your financial and therefore your mental health. And these kind of feel obvious sometimes when you're just kind of looking at them, but I can't tell you how many people, how many clients I've spoken to where it really is a mystery to them how to budget, how to balance their budget, how to get their finances in order, and they automatically go to spending less, that cup of coffee, that canceling a subscription, all of those types of things that are very helpful to your cash flow and money management situation, but maybe not helpful to making a drastic change that can affect your financial health. And I think, in America, a lot of times what happens is we start at a space and then lifestyle creep and lifestyle inflation, just the general process of getting older, getting a new job, having kids, all of those things change our mindset around some of these areas. And really, if we went back and said, was that so bad? Or could I actually manage to do that again? It can drastically change our financial picture. It can open up more opportunities for spending your dollars in other places. And so today's episode is really all about being mindful about these areas that can drastically affect your financial health. So according to a Bankrate survey on financial wellness, significant percentages of U.S. adults experience negative emotions during common money-related tasks. This is a relatively recent survey. 49% experience anxiety or negative emotions just looking at their bank accounts. 41% experience the same in paying a bill, and 34% experience that negative emotion in making a purchase. And so if that is affecting more than a third of us, just simple money management activities, I think it begs the question, how could we drastically shift what we spend our money on, see in our bank accounts, or our ability to make purchases that would kind of calm our nerves down a little bit and help us just go through life with a little more peace and a little more comfort and clarity around our financial habits. So, earning more and spending less are all just ways of using money as a tool, adjusting how you use money as a tool. But the real issue is often more emotional than it is practical. And so if you look at these practical things, practical ways of really shifting your financial picture, my hope is that those emotional things will be a little less triggering, or they just may happen a little less because you have taken control of your financial picture overall and kind of shifted your dynamic. So I mentioned lifestyle creep. We did an episode on that recently because it can really lock you into a view that this is what you're supposed to be doing. If you are in a house and you have another baby and the house is too small, then you are supposed to upgrade to a new space, and that's your mindset. People lived in this country and in the world, in the history of civilization, with other people a lot, often. And I just don't think that there's any shame at all in having a roommate or renting out a room, or in downsizing instead of upsizing your living area or your living situation. So that's the first thing to look at is where are you living? What's your rent? What's your mortgage? What are your actual expenses for maintaining the place, the living situation that you're currently in? Could you move? Could you downsize? Could you take on a roommate? This is the key to so many people's financial freedom, is letting go of the idea that I must have a house. I must now have a bigger house. Okay, now I have to have a house over in this area or neighborhood. Now I should have a house that has a guest room. Now I should have, it's a very natural thing to do. But I think we all need to just recognize that the more you take on as a financial burden, thinking, okay, this is where I need to go next, this is the next step, the less financially secure and potentially the less mentally, emotionally secure you are around your finances if you don't actually have the budget for that. And houses in particular are deceptive because sometimes you can get approved for something that you really have no business actually moving forward with. Credit worthiness is not good cash flow. And so we really, this is the main place where when people are telling me they're making, whether they're making $75,000 or $500,000, and they're telling me they're living paycheck to paycheck, this is the first place that I look, because if they are spending a significant amount of their income, more than 30% of their income on housing or housing costs, I'm going to flag that as something that they should reevaluate. And it doesn't mean that you shouldn't strive for a bigger house or something like that. But when you do that, as I said, you are trading some amount of financial freedom for that. And so we just need to be cognizant of that. We need to be mindful. This is about minding your money, not about shaming, not about saying, oh, we've made some horrible error or mistake, but about reevaluating what you're doing in these key areas in your life that can drastically affect your financial picture. So that's the first one, is where are you living? How much does your rent or mortgage, as well as your expenses related to living cost? Okay, the second area is transportation. Again, I think lifestyle creep, keeping up with the Joneses, all of that, the money dysmorphia conversation of like, do I have enough? Should I have more? Why is that person driving that awesome car? Shouldn't I be able to afford that awesome car? Can all creep in and tell us, okay, I'm moving forward with this purchase or that purchase. And again, just because you can technically be approved for it does not necessarily mean that you can afford it. These decisions are personal. Personal finance is personal. And so if you choose to have a new car every few years, that's absolutely fine. That's your prerogative. But if you choose to have a new car every 3 years because you feel obligated to make that choice, and simultaneously, you are concerned about gas, concerned about putting food on the table, concerned about making your mortgage, concerned about having enough discretionary income to do what you would like to do with your family, your friends, your colleagues. Is that new car worth it? So some questions to ask are, could you actually go without a car? Could you go without a car payment? Could you offset your costs by doing ride shares or carpooling, or could you take public transport? Could you do one of those cool rent my car type of situations, kind of like Airbnb but for vehicles? Could you do something like that? If you're making a decision to purchase something new and shiny and fancy and wonderful, that's great. But if you're doing it and you're essentially piling on more obligation and burden to yourself and not really thinking about how that's going to affect not just your financial freedom, but the opportunity cost of putting that money somewhere else, that can lead to drastically negative effects for your financial picture. And so thinking about those transportation costs is super important. Don't forget gas. And tolls. Texas is huge on tolls. Don't know what we're still paying for, but cool. The third place to look at, third area that can drastically affect your financial picture is how much or how well you eat. And this is a touchy one. In America, we are quite rotund, many of us. And so one of the things that you could actually do differently is not eating more unhealthy, but shifting gears to spend less, eat more healthy. And, you know, I said it's a touchy subject because some people just do not have access to healthier options, inexpensive, healthy options. But for those of you who do have a great grocery store or farmers markets or things like that, look at some of the options that don't include meat. For instance, meat is one of the most expensive staples that you can get at the grocery store. Interestingly, it's also one of the most thieved things in the grocery store, and obviously for good reason. It's expensive. So that is one area that you can look at in order to potentially shift your financial situation and lower your grocery bills every month is by, first of all, going to the grocery store and cooking for yourself rather than eating out. Dining out is by far the most, the easiest expense to eliminate that I think people insist is not having a huge effect on their budget, but then you go and look and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm ticking up all of the dinners that you've had out over the course of the month, and it's like $500, $1,000. And people are always shocked at how much they're spending eating out. But all of that adds up. And so if you're in a situation where you are really wondering where the cash flow is going, evaluating how much and how well you eat, whether you're eating out, and just making some pretty drastic changes that can then have some drastic effects on your financial outcomes is huge. So as I mentioned, cooking for yourself, not eating out, buying generic stuff instead of brand names. Our minds are coded towards those brand names, but if you buy more generics, that obviously saves some money. You could also go vegetarian, or go vegetarian 1 or 2 days a week. See how it feels to physically and emotionally spend less on what you take in. And, caveat, if you have kids, I'm not saying starve your kids or make them go vegetarian or things like that. But what I have noticed, as I said, with my clients and even with myself, is that this is a form of lifestyle creep that sneaks up on you. It's one of the biggest unseen and unacknowledged effects on finances and mental health. And when we're not intentionally managing it or choosing options based on those opportunity costs that are involved, what else could you do with that $500 a month? That's obviously not lending itself well to your financial picture overall. The fourth area that you can look at that can drastically affect your financial health is who you're in a financial relationship with. And we've talked about this before, but if you're not on the same page with your financial partner or with the people in your financial household, you need to get there. Your kids should understand what's going on, obviously in kid-friendly ways, but they should understand that you have a budget, that there are spending limits, and you can engage them in helping stay on that budget and manage the family's finances appropriately. So thinking about who you're in financial relationships with and having those discussions can, over time especially, drastically affect your financial picture. And the final, saved for last, is looking at how much you earn. A lot of times people go here first. They want to have a better job, more income, more, this or that. And so intuitively, we kind of spend our time and our energy trying to make more dollars. But I've saved this for last because I think these other areas are better ways, better things to be focusing your time and attention on, and have a more long-term effect. Because as I mentioned, when you earn more, typically we end up just spending more because we feel like we've earned it. We've earned that bigger this, that, or the other. And so earning more doesn't necessarily solve many problems. You kind of have to deal with some of the fundamentals, the practical fundamentals of those problems before you get to having earning more money make a drastic effect on how you're living. So how much you earn could be affected by having a side hustle, investing yourself, whether that's time or money, and going back to school, getting a certification, taking a calculated risk on some sort of income generating investment. The key here is that whatever you spend to earn, you need to get a return on. That's the really important part. So a lot of people, again, we tend to be really optimistic when we think about money. People very rarely plan for things to go wrong. What we do instead is hope for that windfall. I'm going to win the lottery. I'm going to get a raise. That's what we tend to focus our attention on. And those things do eventually happen, but planning for those things to happen becomes really dangerous. So if you are, for instance, going back to school or getting a certification, go and research and investigate what that degree or what that certification is actually going to earn you back in income, and make a plan that if it costs more than it's actually going to bring you back year one, probably not something that you should invest your time or your money in. And that's just real talk. Once you get done with whatever it is, if you are not earning money within 1 year of that, making that investment, you need to rethink that investment. And not saying that you shouldn't do it, not saying that you shouldn't go back to school, but there should be a plan for how that certification or that skill that you're learning is actually going to earn you some dollars, because otherwise it can just kind of add to that financial obligation, that financial stress. So this is 5 areas that drastically affect your financial health, how to make a change, making a change. The first area was how you're living. Second area was transportation. Third area was how you eat, how well you eat, or whether or not you go out to eat, all of those things. The fourth area was who you're in financial relationships with. And the final thing, saved for last, is how much you earn. So if you're looking deeply at these practical things and making some practical choices based on what you find, I believe that making changes in these areas can drastically affect your financial health and therefore your mental health and well-being overall. I'll see you back next week for another one.